Hello and welcome to the Superbike Show here on Motorsport Radio. Welcome. We are live. My name is Lester and Lewis Ray is here. Hello. Good evening, Lewis.
Good evening, Lester.
So, we're starting the show a tiny bit different. Normally we'd have some like fancy music and some highly produced stuff and whatnot. People already getting in touch and saying, what's going on, Eurosport? I mean, Motorsport Radio, it's a bit different this weekend. It's because basically I've not put the studio back together from Lid, where we were live streaming the first 2 rounds of the Fab Racing Minibikes British Championship, streaming a massive 50 races. Lewis was commentating on it. Have you got your voice back yet?
Yes, I have got a voice back. It was a long weekend, but an enjoyable weekend. It was pretty warm in the van anyway.
Yes, indeed. Production van that we had there. So anyway, we are live. Hello and welcome. And coming up on tonight's program, we have got later on, we've got highlights and clips of basically what I was doing at Silverstone at the weekend. Your comments and suggestions about stuff that's been kicking off on Facebook since Silverstone. Get in touch and have your say. It's all welcome here on the Superbike Show on Motorsport Radio. And latest news right here from the past few days. Lewis, let's start in MotoGP. What's the biggest headlines going on right now?
Yeah, the biggest headlines going on right now is Toprak Razgatlioglu, the 2021 World Superbike World Champion, will be joining the MotoGP factories at a private test at the Jerez circuit, and he'll be on the factory Yamaha. I believe that ended today, a second day of running on that bike, so exciting times ahead for Toprak Razgatlioglu. Miguel Oliveira will return to action this weekend at the American Grand Prix, pending a medical test if he is past fit, whereas Marc Marquez is still declared unfit after tendon damage to his right leg after the Portuguese crash, which was involving Jorge Martin and Miguel Oliveira. So Marc Marquez still having to sit out. And last week in the MotoGP Argentinian Grand Prix, Brad Binder won the sprint race in fine fashion in the wet conditions of Marco Bezzecchi, picking up his first ever MotoGP race win in the sprint race. 2 Vision Track bikes finished in the points positions, with the American Grand Prix kicking off this weekend at the Circuit of the Americas. So plenty of riders still injured, with plenty of riders still having to have medical checks. The likes of Enea Bastianini also needs to find out if he's going to be declared unfit or if he can actually race this weekend. So it's been a pretty messy start to the season, and plenty of riders hoping to get back on track.
Well, let us know what you think. Have your say. Get in touch and join the conversation. If you're listening live on this Tuesday evening here on Motorsport Radio, hello, good evening, and welcome. Even if you just if you downloaded the show at a later date, if you're not live, then still we like to read your comments and know what you think. Specifically, we're going to be reading out as many comments. I am vetting them regarding subjects that have been posted in the past few days on the on the BSB and Support Classes Fans Facebook group. Hello to everyone tuned in there. Chris Hayden today, I think, asked on the Tuesday. Chris says, is it me or is Steve Day the worst commentator in bike racing? Steve Day, lead commentator for BSB Eurosport previously. If you're not aware who Steve Day is, then where have you been? I mean, do you even like bikes? Then he was previously working in MotoGP for Dorna, and before then Thundersport. Yes, which is suddenly anyway, rip for Thundersport GB. So excuse me, I am getting over a bit of a thing. It's called dinner, so excuse me. But Chris Hayden asks, yes, is it me or is Steve Day the worst commentator in bike racing? Well, a lot of people are very passionate about this particular subject. 132 comments so far on the old Facebooks, and you can join the conversation. Just remember to be nice as well, because we're talking about people here, and nice people. But one person who's chimed in already, Fred Clark, And he said, well, commentary is totally subjective, thus there can never be a black or white answer. However, he says, this is Fred Clark, since this thread is about Steve Day, my only observation being can he please learn to pronounce Hector Barbera's name correctly? Didn't even know he didn't, did he? Does he? What does he say?
I don't know. He hasn't. Well, no one's really spoke about him too much last weekend, as it wasn't too strong of a weekend for Hector. But yeah.
Well, many other people sticking up for Steve and saying that he does a tremendous amount of work to keep us all updated, according to Jack Russell, who chimed in, Jack Russell. And he says, like one or like another, you can't knock any of them. It's just a personal taste thing. And a lot of people suggesting they should bring back certain other commentators who were basically gone now. And I even chimed in as well with my own comment. But let us know, what do you think? Have you been checking out the Eurosport coverage over the weekend at Silverstone? And do you have an opinion on this? Are you one of the people who were chimed in on the... and there's a big thread elsewhere on Facebook regarding Eurosport and a couple of technical issues that they may have been suffering with, or some graphic issues or something like that. But let us know. It's all a bit of gossip, and that's what we're here for this evening. Just a bit of gossip. And yeah. So if you've got any gossip, then get in touch. Let us know. Have your say. Right. So anyway, we'll be coming back to that conversation and also other nuggets of information on Facebook throughout the evening. So, yeah, just going back to MotoGP then, Lewis. It's Grand Prix this weekend, and, well, we've got to mention, I think I called it here on this show a couple of weeks ago, Marc Marquez, he's going to do something stupid, his hand's going to fly off, or his leg's going to fall off, or whatever. He's basically Woody from Toy Story, where he's just held together by, like, stitches, and he's in a very precarious position. His entire career is in a very precarious position. As he admitted once, he almost kind of retired, very nearly. But he's announced today on the Tuesday that he's missing another race. Yeah, your thoughts?
Yeah, it's a real disappointment. I think almost the whole grid, though, will be pretty... It'll be mixed feelings for the grid, because Marc Marquez, it's one of his favourite circuits, and it's a circuit which whenever he goes to, he's always on the pace, fighting for race victories. Even last year, where by the first corner, he was in last position after he struggled to get the bike off the line. He still fought his way into podium position. So Marc Marquez, he's so strong at Circuit of the Americas. And it's really one of those tracks where we could have seen the Honda and Marc Marquez get a good result this season. So I think it's going to be a real blow to Honda's confidence and Marc Marquez's confidence for a season, because it seems right now he has absolutely no luck in the past couple of years, because it's just one injury after another. Well,
you kind of make your own luck in some ways, depending on the way you think about luck. I said on this show, again, a couple of weeks ago, that given his age, I mean, he's only, 29? He's not even 30, is he? Is he? No.
He's either 29 or just turned 30.
Anyway, he's pretty young. But given his injuries, given that he's not as youthful as he used to be, the best riders, and we've seen it in motor racing, even drivers as well. I mean, look at like Michael Schumacher, for example, when he was racing in Formula One, and the best riders, Rossi, of course, you know, as they get older, and you have to sort of adapt your riding style and your racing to your own conditions. So him flinging things around like he used to be able to do just isn't working anymore. And it's causing him injury after injury after injury, and he's going to have to retire if he's not careful.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point. But the thing is, as well, nowadays, MotoGP, the riding styles is practically your shoulders almost scraping off the ground. And the way that you have to ride them bikes, especially the Honda now, you have to really push and you have to really be on the edge of that tyre and use every single part of your body to gain every single tenth of a second well, back in the day, slightly, you could be a bit more conservative, a bit more centralised on the motorcycle. So nowadays, just every little injury in your hand, you're going to have to change your riding style, like you said. But then that's going to take time. It's going to take even more time, which himself and Honda doesn't really have until the end of their contract or till it becomes time to look at signing a new contract. So they really need to hopefully just find a way to ride that bike, find a way to ride the Honda, and hopefully recover from this injury as fast as possible. Because right now, luckily, it just looks like it's mainly a precaution.
Well, potentially, let's just hope, fingers crossed, that he comes back and all continues to be well. Maybe we're just worrying about nothing. And I don't know. What do you think? Let us know if you tuned in or just listening, if you downloaded the show. Is the writing on the wall or in the gravel trap for Marc Marquez? Is it all over? Is its career about to come to a screeching halt? Have your say. Get in touch. We like to read out all the comments. Well, we like to read them, at least. Also, a couple of other people sitting out this weekend's race as well. Do we have updates on their injuries?
Well, we don't have any updates on it, whether they're going to be racing exactly this weekend. We're still waiting for medicals to be done. I believe they should be done around Thursday, I assume, at the circuit. So, Enea Bastianini has a broken shoulder blade at the moment. Paul Espargaro, probably the biggest injury we've seen so far this season, is on the mend, but it looks to be a long, long road to recovery at the moment. I've seen a picture of him lying in the hospital bed, and it didn't really look too great, but he is talking, he is able to eat some things, and I believe he's taken his first steps since the crash now as well. So Paul Espargaro is definitely on the mend, so that's great to see. But right now, a lot of the riders just waiting for medicals to be done on Thursday morning, or are going to be out for some time, it seems at the moment.
Okay. We will come and get your predictions later on this weekend's race, Lewis. That's a new thing that I've just sprung on him right now that we didn't even discuss. Hence why he's got a worried sort of look on his face and sound. He's thinking,
pressure,
my God,
no pressure.
What the hell? I've not even thought about it. But anyway, talking about riding styles, you're a racer yourself, Lewis, if people didn't know. What's your riding style like compared to Marc Marquez, if you can at least compare it? How do you go around Knockhill?
Slightly different from Marc Marquez, a lot more centralised on the motorcycle. Certainly my upper body is definitely not as far to the ground. Of course, being a rider, you have to find some kind of excuse. So Marc Marquez's tyres, the circuit he's racing on, it's just, slightly different motorcycle that's used to going round these tracks. But yeah, my riding style is definitely not as impressive as Marc Marquez, and definitely not as spectacular, but...
Well, your crashing must be.
Yeah, I probably have the same amount of crashes as what Marc Marquez has in this season as well. So on that sense, we're pretty matched.
Oh, but here's to a great season ahead. When is your first race?
Less than 2 weeks.
Okay.
11 days, I think. 10, 11 days.
No pressure then.
Yeah, no pressure. No pressure, obviously.
Yeah,
we've had 10 laps on the bike going into the weekend. So, what's the worst that can happen?
Well, Troy Jeffrey could turn up. I mean, he's not in British Talent Cup anymore. Will he be racing? What's he doing now, Troy Jeffrey?
Troy Jeffrey, last year's British Talent Cup rider, he will be racing, I believe, in Scottish Championship on the Ninja 300s. He was initially going to be riding on the exact same bike as what I am this year on the ER 650, but age limits were put up and he was no longer able to ride it this season. So I believe he's going to be racing the 300s, and he'll also be racing his British Talent Cup bike from, I think, 2 years ago, up in Scottish Championship this season in the lightweight race, which is what I'll be racing in. So yeah.
And he may even do, talking about Troy Jeffrey, he may even do a wildcard race at Knockhill as well.
It would definitely make sense if he's bringing the British Talent Cup bike up to Knockhill to do Scottish Championship. He has plenty of track time this season on it. So yeah, it would definitely be the way. And last season in the British Talent Cup race at Knockhill, he was fighting for podium positions.
Okay. Perhaps is a Lewis Ray wild card on the cards at any point in Talent Cup? A one-off?
I'm gonna say probably not for that one. I mean, obviously we have to wait and see anything can happen, but no, I wouldn't be holding your breath either way.
Oh, okay. Well, fair enough. But if anyone does want to sponsor Lewis and get him on the telly, racing in the British Talent Cup this year, then get in touch. You never know. Got a dream, ain't you? So. Anyway, right, so talking about other stuff, let's talk Moto3 for a bit, I think, for the time being. Latest news in Moto3, has there been any? It's been relatively quiet.
Yeah, it's been relatively quiet. Probably the biggest news from the Argentinian Grand Prix was that obviously both Vision Track riders scored points for the first time in one race, both riders scoring points. So it was a great race for him. Scott Ogden finished in 5th place as well. I believe that's a career best in Moto3 for himself. And Andrea Mineo was replacing Lorenzo Fullon in the Snipers team. In the CIP Green Power bike. At the Argentinian Grand Prix, and they actually got a podium in his wildcard race. So it was quite impressive, filling in for a rider on a KTM, which is a bike that he hasn't raced for years, and able to jump on it and get a podium. So yeah, it was great for Mineo, and that's probably been about it. It's been pretty quiet at the moment, and we're still waiting for news on Joe Kelso at the moment, who crashed at the first round after the checkered flag, after running into the back of Danny Holgado and breaking his leg. So we're still waiting on his condition and when he'll be returning, because it looks as well it's going to be a lengthy recovery process from that leg break.
Talking about the Vision Track team in Moto3 as well, if you didn't manage to catch the previous race, well, as you'll hear in a moment, with our interview that I managed to nab with Michael Laverty, who was at Silverstone over the weekend, had 5 minutes with him in between one of the Talent Cup sessions. He was there supporting his team in the R&G British Talent Cup. But yeah, the team's been pretty strong so far it's coming good anyway.
Yeah, it's coming good. It's great to see, of course, in Argentina. It was the conditions which would favour a British rider, I think it's fair to say. But yeah, it's been great to see Scott and his teammate Josh Watley do very, very well this season. Scott, of course, 5th position. It's a great result. And at Portimao, both riders look really strong, and in pre-season testing, I think now that they've had a year on World Championship machinery, that they've really just started taking to the circuits. Places like Argentina, for example, they've only been at twice in their life, and they're already getting, Scott's already getting a 5th place finish, and Josh is already scoring points. So it's great to see for both of them, and I think it's going to be great things to come, especially whenever we go to circuits like Jerez, Silverstone and Valencia, where they've raced that many, many times in their career. So I think it's only going to get better for them.
Scott Ogden currently joint 10th at the moment with 11 points, tying with Masia in the championship and a couple of points behind Rueda as we go into this weekend's race. So Josh Watley making his points debut, I suppose, getting off the scoreboard. He's now tied on points, at least, with Riccardo Rossi, one of the pre-season favourites here in the Motorsport Radio studio. So that's not bad for him, I suppose. Long way still to go, big long season. And anyway, so talking about Michael Laverty and the team, I actually wasn't expecting him to be at Silverstone, but he was. And in true journalistic fashion, we leapt on him and grabbed him for an interview. Mostly this is about the R&G British Talent Cup, but I obviously got to ask him about Moto3. So this is what he said. At the first round of the R&G British Talent Cup, and well, we've found Michael Laverty. How are you doing?
Yeah, pretty good, thanks. Ready for round one. It's been busy winter as always, but always nice to get the first one out of the way.
Well, it's good to see you here at Silverstone, back in BSB.
Yeah, obviously I've spent so many years of my own racing career in the BSB paddock. I have so many friends, and actually still a lot of family working in the paddock as well, so it's always nice to come back. I've got some good guys run the British Talent Cup team for me that I can allow them to pretty much run the day-to-day throughout the season, so I don't get that many opportunities to be on site at the British Talent Cup events, so it's always good when I have a free weekend to get along and just to keep an eye on the boys. But yeah, the guys Nathan and Jordan who run the team for me do a good job. One of the,
I suppose, most hardest working, busiest people in any paddock is with everything that you're doing, your TV work and running. How many teams exactly now?
Yeah, we've got 3 race teams, so this is the British Talent Cup team was what we initially started with, then we got the Grand Prix team, and then we were missing the one step in the ladder in the European Championship, so the Junior GP Series. Last year we jumped in there with 5 riders, which was a bit of a step too far. We've scaled it back, and we've got 2 of the hottest properties, in my opinion, coming through are Casey O'Gorman and Johnny Garness, and both have a chance of winning the European Talent Cup Series there. So we've got 3 race teams, and we've got the steps all the way through, so it's nice that it's all coming together. And now, second year on, we're so much more organised, better prepared, got experienced staff on board, we've got all the parts we need. We're not figuring out as we go, as we were a little bit last year, so we did jumped in with both feet for 2022, but the opportunity was there, and we had 19 riders across, because we were running mini bikes as well last year. This year we're back to 9 riders, which is a lot more manageable, and as you say, I'm busy, so I felt last year was just running pillar to post and not able to really be hands-on with the riders, whereas this year I can do a better job with the talented kids we've got under our banner. So it's good, it's really coming together. It's exactly what we needed for UK motorsport, to have something from grassroots all the way to GP and a clear path. If you join our team in British Championship and you have success, and you go to European Championship, you have success, you join Junior GP, and then you come to us in Grand Prix. So we can bring you all the way from this paddock in BSB all the way into the Grand Prix series. So it's nice to have the full route there for the junior riders.
Well, I know you always keep an eye on the grassroots and championships like Fab Racing Mini Bikes British Championship for the next crop of young top talent. So who have you got your eye on for? I mean, we're already at the start of the season, it might be a bit premature to even ask, but anyone in particular coming through who you'd like to sign but are not able to at the moment?
Well, a lot of it has changed for us because of the age limit changes. So previously we were working to 16-year-old Grand Prix rider, whereas now it's 18 years old. So because of that shift, we've now left the mini bike paddocks as such. So I'll still support and help some young riders in BMB and Fab, or provide assistance or direction for them, but actually team-wise we won't run until the first starting step is going to be with us in British Talent Cup on Moto 3 bikes. So I do have my eye on Ethan Sparks, who's moved into the Moto 4 Championship in Spain this year, strong runner in Fab over the last couple of seasons. The problem is, like I say, there's such a long 5-year window almost to prepare them for Grand Prix, so we want them to build their way in gradually, but there is a lot of young talent, and I think Casey and Johnny and Carter Brown and the various riders who've come through in the years before have elevated the level at home, so we've got a really fast crop at the moment. So I'm still helping Tyler Humphreys a little bit. I've got Lewis Mullen, a little bit of assistance, but no one directly under our team as such, so we will help them. We'll try and grow I've actually sort of stopped the academy side of it. We'll try and grow that in the future. We've got a good base and workshop in Spain, and that's where a lot of the training and development goes on. So yeah, pick them out. They got to do a lot of their work and homework here in the Fab and BMB, but then try and provide opportunities into Europe and beyond. So yeah, there's a fast crop of riders. Another one, Mason Foster, made the step last year in the Moto 4, really strong former Fab rider. He's staying in Moto 4 this year, and I think we've got a bright future for UK racing.
And talking about Moto 3 briefly, results starting to come your way now.
Yeah, it's so nice. We had our best weekend ever in Argentina last weekend, having Scott up there qualifying in the 3rd row, finishing top 5, actually crossing the line in 4th, and within reach of a podium. A little mistake in the last lap. That was very promising, very pleasing for the team and the sponsors. Josh Watley as well, getting his first points in 15th. So the results are coming. Year 2's been so much easier. We've changed staff a little bit, we've developed our bikes a little bit, everyone knows what's happening within the team. Scott needed to reset a little bit, put too much pressure on himself last year, but he's in a good place now. So yeah, nice to see things starting to go the right direction. It's not an easy championship as a new team to come in and make your presence felt. So year 1 was tough. We had some good results as well, but it's been a big step forward in 23 already.
All right, well, good luck for all of the teams in all of the championships that you're involved in, Michael.
Thank you very much.
There we go, Michael Laverty speaking to myself at Silverstone. And Lewis, I know you were listening intently to every word of that there. He did mention some interesting things. I know we were talking mostly about the British Talent Cup, which is what he was there for and what I was there for as well at Silverstone at the weekend. Interesting, though, that he does have his eye on the next generation. As great as Scott Ogden is doing with his performances at the moment, part of, I suppose, developing a long-term strategy with finding riders and the next, British and Irish crop of next young talents is always keeping your eye out. Fab Racing, Mini Bikes British Championship, is probably the ideal place for someone like Michael Laverty to grab a load of riders. And that's exactly what he's done. Scott Ogden and Josh Watley, both Fab graduates. And he did mention as well Johnny Garnett and Casey O'Gorman, who were already riding for his team as being potential future racers, maybe in Moto3. That would be sensational to see. And he did also mention a big shout out to Ethan Sparks as well, given his age, not able to make a step up just yet. But still, it's good to know that people like Ethan Sparks, who literally just won the Fab Racing Championship, people like him on his radar.
Yeah, it's great to see that he has so many people on his radar at the moment, and he's already trying to look at a pathway for the riders, which he's already got. Obviously, he's scaled back the team this year, and that's allowed him just to be able to focus on these riders a bit more. Of course, in the Fab Championship, he no longer has that team, which was running last year, which Ethan Sparks won the championship with. But he's still keeping an eye on it, and I'm sure whenever they make the step like Joshua Breen has done this year to the British Talent Cup, they'll be able to get signed by Michael Laverty. But yeah, Ethan Sparks, as you mentioned, not able to make the step to the British Talent Cup quite yet anyway, but has made the step up in Spain in the Moto4 Championship, and I'm sure Michael Laverty will be keeping a keen eye on that championship, and he'll be wanting them to keep him in his reign and keep him under his arms, really, for the British Talent Cup ride whenever, hopefully, he's old enough. So, yeah, Michael Laverty, he's probably the busiest man in the paddock at the moment. I mean, last season, he was running countless amount of teams and having countless amount of riders and having a newborn baby. So, yeah, it's good that he recognised that maybe it was a little bit too much, and now he's able just to put a bit more focus on them. So, yeah it's great to see, and it was quite good to hear that he thinks British motorcycle racing is in a good place at the moment, and that is thanks to things like Vision Track Academy, which is able to, as he said, have a ladder system all the way to Grand Prix, which in Scott Ogden's case has clearly worked and gave them that ride in Moto3.
Well, yeah, the academy pretty much literally sort of taken the place of what. For those who know about Cool Milk, as it was involved in the Mini Bikes Championship. Fab Racing basically was the Cool Fab Racing Mini Bikes British Championship in 2016, 17, 18 and 19. And that laid literally the stepping stones, the initial building blocks within a specific view to get British racers into the GP paddock. Scott Ogden, Josh Watley, both benefiting from that initial first 2016 season. And, well, the system is working slowly but surely. We're now getting that streamlined, straight to Grand Prix approach, in large part as well, thanks to Dorna. Dorna never get anywhere near enough credit for doing all of these Talent Cup competitions, because don't forget, they don't have to. It's not all about money. I mean, Formula One, for example, perfect example. They don't bother. They don't care. And they don't. So, Dorna, they saw the long-term vision, or what they wanted for a long-term vision, and they enacted it many years ago. They made Fab Racing a road to MotoGP, literally a ladder series, and that is now starting to pay results, long-term results. So, beneficiaries Scott Ogden, Josh Watley, 2 of hopefully many to come from the future. And as well, there's been lots of media talent as well go from Fab Racing. I do keep mentioning it on the show as well, but many of the commentators from Fab Racing, many of my guys, very proud moment to listen to Tom Brooks take his commentary, not his debut as such, but he's taking up the reins of what do we call it, support class categories on Eurosport for British Superbikes for most of the season, basically taking over from Greg Haynes, who's now focusing on World Superbikes, and Tom Brooks, another Fab graduate. So there you go. So if you're wondering which mini bikes championship to dip your toe in, I think there's only one, really. Anyway, right, Fab promo over with. Let's get back to some racing. Hi, Roger. What we were talking about now. Oh, yeah, just before we move on to other things as well, I've just had a quick look on the Facebook, on the BSB and Support Fans Facebook group as well. A couple of days ago on the Sunday, I don't know if this was a bit of a trolling post anyway, but Dean Marples, old Marpo, he asked, is it just me, or is it just me, or are these types of incendiary, inflammatory questions all start the same way? Is it just me? Anyway.
It usually is followed by about 100 comments.
84 in this case so far. But Dean Marples asks, is it just me, or does this Silverstone short circuit seem a bit boring? It's like a procession. Did you watch any of the racing, Dean? I don't think you did. Anyway, that's what Dean asks. Get in touch and have your say. Do you agree with him? Do you want BSB to go back to the old configuration of this? Sorry, I'm nodding off and thinking about the international circuit. I think it works, the national circuit. It's basically just like all of the other circuits. Lewis, your thoughts?
The Silverstone National Circuit, I like the circuit itself. It produces great racing, as we've seen in BSB. There was not a win in the actual BSB races that was separated by more than, I think it was 4 or 5 tenths of a second. So it just proves that it does produce great racing, produces close racing. In race 3, for example, it was like 8 bikes battling for the race win. So it was great to see. And in the British Talent Cup, it was two great races there. So yeah, the circuit itself, it produces great racing. It's quite flat, so it's unlike most of the other British circuits. But the only thing I will say about it that I'm not a big fan of is certainly watching it on TV, it just looks a bit dull, I guess you could say, just because of how big the circuit is, how big the grandstands are, and it didn't look like many of the grandstands were getting used this weekend. So looking at it on the TV coverage, it looked like barely anyone was actually there watching the racing, which, to be fair, if they actually did use the international circuit, it would be a lot worse.
I did look into this while I was there, and I thought kind of the same thing. I mean, we were filming around the track on the Friday and doing some bits of filming on the Saturday and Sunday, and I thought, yeah, that grandstand seems a little empty. Maybe people just turning up a bit late, whatever. But then I thought, well, that one's a bit... And I'm thinking, well, I have seen people here. Where the hell are people? And then I looked on the Silverstone website where they're selling tickets, and there's only 2 grandstands where you could buy tickets for. And I thought, well, surely if they opened more grandstands and lowered the price, let's say by a lot, then you'd be able to pack out all of the grandstands and make a lot more money.
Yeah.
I'm not an economist, but that's just my logic. I mean, yes, you'd have to hire more security, more people, more stewards and stuff, but you'd make all that money back with all the many more thousands of people that turn up when you pack out the grandstands. Just seems a bit obvious to me. Just putting it out there. I'm sure there's a really complex technical reason why, but these 2 grandstands that was on the BSB website that was listed, that I didn't actually want to buy any tickets, but I just thought I'd look. It said those 2 grandstands that were for sale were sold out. So obviously there's a demand there. I'm just saying. But to have empty grandstands at any track is a bit of a tragedy, especially when you've got the world's premier domestic motorcycle racing competition like BSB racing at Silverstone, one of the world's greatest motor racing venues. Yeah, maybe they can tinker around with the camera angles and stuff. Who knows? Personally, I didn't have an issue with it. Silverstone is always a interesting place to be. But let us know your thoughts. I don't know. I'm not saying anything bad about BSB at Silverstone because I really enjoyed being there. And if you were there, I'm sure you enjoyed it too. And all of these negative comments just come from people who weren't there, I don't think. Challenge me if I'm wrong. People who were just sat around waiting for someone to put BSB on their TV, literally turn up, switch the TV over and go, there's BSB. Instead, you get people sitting around going, what channel is BSB on? I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know where the hell is it. You don't know where you are nowadays. General rant over. Anyway, moving on. Well, we were talking about Moto 3. Sorry, Lewis. This is what happens when we don't get guests on. We have to talk. So, anyway. Right. So, Moto 2, I think we were up to, weren't we? Yeah, Moto 2.
Yeah.
Right. Any big news from Moto 2? What's been happening? Have you been checking out Rory Skinner's OnlyFans?
Personally, I have not been checking out Rory Skinner's OnlyFans, but I did see from Rory Skinner that he retired from the Argentinian Grand Prix due to an electrical issue. So his first DNF of the year, and it turns out electrics do not like the rain. So yeah, Rory Skinner, first DNF of the season. He was quite disappointed with that, but at least it was just a mechanical and there was nothing that he could have done.
Interesting one. Yeah, the championship as it stands at the moment. Just had me right tab open on there. Giggity. Moto 2. It's Tony Arbolino. Or, kind of, not really, but kind of almost kind of running away with it if he can at all in Moto 2. He's got a bit of a big gap back to Aaron Canet. I'm sure he can. Pedro Acosta is in 3rd at the moment. Jake Dixon in 4th. He's right there. Not much talked about so far. I think maybe we'd, as a British people, try not to heap too much expectation on him. Am I right? And am I wrong on that? I don't know. Because we seem to do it regularly, don't we?
Yeah, we seem to just be overhyped them and then the results don't come. But now that we haven't spoke about him too much, he is in 4th place in the championship and did pick up a podium last time out. So Jake Dixon did really good this year. Hopefully we haven't just jinxed him, but I think he'll be happy with his season so far. Of course, his teammate Guevara, who should be joining them, isn't here. He's getting replaced by Jordi Torres. So Jake Dixon right now just got a temporary teammate, so he's not really got someone to look at the data. But of course Torres is pretty experienced in the class, so we're going to have to wait and see, because Moto2 is looking extremely competitive this year. Pedro Acosta at the start of the season, he was probably the championship favourite, with many MotoGP riders, fans, journalists all saying Pedro Acosta and even tipping him for MotoGP. But right now he's in 3rd position, and still the championship looks like it's wide open, even though Tony Arbolino does have a 7-point advantage right now.
Yeah, I mean, it could all be nothing by the end of this weekend. Yeah, a lot to play for, I would say. Sam Lowes in 8th position in the championship at the moment. Your assessment so far, Lewis?
Yeah, Sam Lowes has been a quiet start to the season. I think it's fair to say there's not really been too much. 10th place last time out at Argentina.
Sam Lowes on the phone.
So, yes, Sam Lowes, he's had a steady start to the season, as I mentioned, just because he hasn't really made too much mistakes. He's just went about, done his business, went on track, got the result, and came back into the pits. He hasn't really had anything stand out. So we haven't seen too much in this season on TV because, well, he's not really done too much. But certainly later on in the season, I'm hoping he picks up the pace. He's just building into it slowly because he did, well, the past couple of seasons, he's been having quite a few crashes and it's knocked his confidence, I think, a little bit with quite a few injuries that's came up. So Sam Lowes, hopefully he can have a better midpoint for the season, maybe just a little reset, a 2-week break, of course, with the last rounds being back-to-back. So hopefully Sam Lowes with a little reset is ready to go and can hopefully be back on the podium, because I believe his contract ends this season, his 2-year contract that he had with the Mark VDS team. So it's going to be an interesting time for Sam Lowes.
So far, I know it's early days, yet still in the championship, marathon championship to go, loads to happen. But so far, who has really outshone your expectations from pre-season, and who has yet to live up to your expectations?
Probably the biggest surprise so far this season has been Manuel Gonzalez for the Yamaha VR46 Master Camp team. He came out last time out at Argentina, got 11th place finish, but he qualified a lot higher in qualifying. All race, he looked really, really strong, and he's just been up. Last season, he was nowhere near the points, and you barely seen anything of him. But this year, even in qualifying in Q2 and doing amazing. So Manuel Gonzalez has probably been the biggest person that has surprised me. Philip Salic as well, he's done really good. Got a pole position this year so far. So Salic, he's really taken to that Moto2 bike, his second year on it. But probably biggest disappointment is tied between two people as well. Vietti, of course, leading the championship last year at the start of the season before it all slipped away from him. He just kept making mistakes, crashing out of Grand Prix. He's now moved to the Fantech team this season, 13th last time out. And he's not really having a good year so far, considering he's leading the championship at this point last year. Joe Roberts as well been pretty disappointing. He was nowhere to be seen in Portimao, where he took a race win, and just a year ago actually. So now Joe Roberts this year, he's just fighting for the last couple of points for the team that won the championship for a couple of years ago. So Vietti and Roberts, really some improvement to do compared to what we're expecting. And of course, there is still some unknowns in Moto2. The likes of Hayagura still hasn't hit the track this season after suffering from some injuries. We still haven't seen him at 100%. So hopefully once Hayagura's hand's a bit better, because we've seen last round that he was a bit iffy, I guess you could say. He was taking a bit precautious, and especially in the wet conditions. So hopefully once Hayagura returns, he was second place in the championship last year, he'll definitely be one to watch, and hopefully can give Arbolino a run for his money.
Wait and see what happens this weekend. Who do you think, if you're tuned in listening live, let us know. Drop into our comments box below, wherever. Big hello to everybody tuned in to, or the one person tuned in on Twitch. Hello. And hello to everyone. We do stream on Twitch. I always forget to mention, mostly because I don't really care. But hello anyway, if you're that person. I know a couple of people do listen anyway, but hey ho. And hello to everyone on the BSB and Support Classes fans Facebook group as well. And well, since I mentioned earlier about Chris Hayden's post saying, is it me or is Steve Day the worst commentator in bike racing? Well, there's the comments have been flooding in, literally. I can't read that one. Can't read that.
Sounds about right.
Steve Brogan, he says, yeah, it's definitely you, Chris. Steve is one, if not the best commentators in bike racing that bike racing has. We're lucky to have him in the UK as he stepped down to BSB from MotoGP. Liam Merchant says he couldn't agree more, and those have lots of likes, so a lot of people agreeing with that, and lots of people saying things about other commentators. Again, I'm not going to mention any negativity because that's not what the show's about. You can jump on the internet for that. This is your tranquil place of harmonious agreement, let's say. Agree with me. I'm just kidding. But Fred Clark's comment earlier about the commentary being totally subjective seems to be going down pretty well with a lot of people. And Steve Buxton says, yes, it is you, because the guy is okay. Yeah, leave Steve there alone. He's a top commentator, and he's also a great guy as well. And we've not yet had him on the show, but for his annual interview here, he's been on like every single season and iteration of the Superbike Show with every single presenter. So we'll have to admire him to get him on. I asked earlier today on the BSB and Support Classes Fans Facebook group, what's the best moment or highlight from BSB round 1 at Silverstone? Just put it out there and let everybody basically chip in with their own ideas. I suggested maybe Josh Brooks winning might have been some people's highlights back P1, and a lot of people agreed with that. Not so many people agreed with just being there was the best moment and highlight of race 1. I would have said it was. I was there. And I liked it. A lot of people say, Emma Jenner says, Owen Jenner's pole position, smiley face, which a few people agreed with. And Aaron Sylvester, according to Sue Sylvester, thinks that Aaron Sylvester winning was the best highlight. I suppose it was really for you, Sue. And who else here? Lee Johnston's double win, according to Dale Kroll. He thinks that Lee Johnston's performances at the weekend was the highlight for him. Franco Bourne, a lot of people talking about Franco Bourne almost as if he's not really existed before now, as though he wasn't in the British Talent Cup previously or Fab Racing, anywhere like that. Told you, there's a connection. All the best people from so yeah, a lot of people, Franco Bourne is actually leading the poll at the moment for best moment / highlight from round 1 Silverstone. Lewis, going to put you on the spot. What was your best moment from Silverstone if you had to pick one?
Yeah, you've really had to put me on the spot. My best moment from Silverstone is going to be, I'm going to say the British Talent Cup race 2, to be honest. It was great to see young riders that were so aggressive with each other, but yet there was pretty much no contact made, or if there was, it was just some slight bang in the bars. So yeah, it was great seeing young riders going at it, 6, 7, 8 riders battling for the race lead and all the way to the line. I mean, it was a drag race to the line. So yeah, probably the British Talent Cup race 2. It was great seeing the Paul Bird Motorsport bikes back at the top in race 3, battling for race wins in all 3 races, battling for podium positions, and also Danny Kent as well being at the front and leading a BSB race was pretty great. But yeah, overall, probably say British Talent Cup race 2. It had me on the edge of my seat on the Sunday morning. So yeah, it was great to see, and it was a shame actually it was only shown live on the Discovery Plus app because not many people got to see it live. I believe that it was shown afterwards on the Eurosport 2 coverage.
Oh, right. Okay. Well, I didn't know that because, when you're there, you're just involved in the moment. But since you mentioned the RNG British Talent Cup, Lewis, it's almost like we have a prepared clip. This was highlights from race number 2 at the Honda British Talent Cup. And there was a lot going on. The starts happening here, and a lot of talk was on pole sitter. I think it was Ollie Walker, Fab graduate as well. He got the pole position for race number 1, and would Sullivan Mounsey basically hold it together? All eyes on him. He has a bit of a wild reputation, but Johnny Garnett starting, I think, 4th in race number 2. Anyway, it turned out in lap number 1 anyway to be somewhat predictable. Affair between Garnett streaking his way to the front, and also Mounsey in close quarters. And then there was a unfortunate large crash between Ollie Horner, who got up and walked away. It was in the same place where there was a previous crash the day before, which brought an end, a red flag to that particular race. But the race did continue, carried on, and it was literally breathless for the rest of the race. It was a fight between Emmanuel Brinton and It was Johnny Garness, Evan Belford on the 52 bike, and Sullivan Mounsey as well. There was like 9 riders. Yesterday's race 1 winner. Yesterday's like I'm there. And then boom, there was a massive crash between Filip Soroviak being taken out by Alfie Davidson, who basically just high-sided, unfortunately, right into Soroviak, who done himself a mischief and broke his arm in the same place he previously broke his arm or hand or something like that. So he'll hopefully won't be out of action for too long, but a spectacular looking crash nonetheless. Good to see everybody walking away from that. And well, the race continued. Lots of position swapping, and I can tell you that pretty much everyone I've spoken to, all the riders after this particular race, said it was the best race that they'd been involved in a long time. Anybody suggesting that Silverstone, it does not make for great racing, the national circuit, well, they've obviously not seen this particular race, because it was absolutely sensational, one of the best, and it came down to less than a tenth of a second when Evan Belford, I called it by the way, Evan Belford took the win over the line to win his first ever R&G British Talent Cup race. A sensational feat, and it couldn't have happened to a nicer person. Evan Belford celebrating, and we'll should we have a quick watch of race 1, what happened in that as well?
Yeah, let's go ahead. Both races were great this weekend, to be fair. So
yeah, it was actually. Well, it was okay for most people, I would suggest. But let's have a look here. It was let's get old.
Of course, in race 1 as well, you had last year's reigning champion Johnny Garnett starting from the back of the grid. So it was always going to be very, very hectic.
Yeah, Johnny Garnett already announced that he wasn't riding in round 2 of the championship because he's in Europe somewhere doing something. He's not basically here. So his mission was to win both races, lead the championship, come back for round 3, or at least do some damage limitations. However, it all started to unravel for him in Friday practice when he had an unfortunate incident. He said, well, he crashed anyway, coming into the Brooklands section, the last sector anyway. And he crashed and his bike went straight on and hit the tyres anyway. And the team had to rebuild it and stuff. He said he crashed because he got paint on the tyres. Now, Inspector Me thinks, well, hang on, if you got paint on your tyres, wet paint, and by the way, it was a lot of wet paint knocking around. I even got some on my shirt, on my thing sleeve, just by leaning on the pit wall. So there was a lot of wet paint. I empathise with him on that. But still, you shouldn't be on the wet painted lines, Johnny. Just saying. But anyway, he had an incident in Friday practice, caused the bike to basically be repaired or some such heavy work to happen to it. In qualifying, he had a bit of what went on exactly, Lewis? I mean, I was there, but I wasn't paying too much attention to it. I was doing other things. But I think it happened in qualifying, didn't it? It did. Yeah. So he came in from qualifying. I believe he was around 6th position in qualifying. And on his return into the pits at the end of the session, he didn't make his way into Park Fermi to do the weight bridge and to check his weight of his bike, well, his combined bike and rider. So, he just made his way back into the paddock and then, he was sent to the back of the grid for not complying with the regulations because you're meant to go into Park Fermi to get your bike at least checked after qualifying to check everything is legal. So I believe he did make an effort to go into scrutineering, but he left prematurely before he could have got weighed. He apparently subsequently went back to get weighed, but it was too late. Rules is rules. And that was that, unfortunately, which is a terrible shame. Starting at the back, worst possible start of the season for Johnny Garnett until he turned it around. Race number 1, and this is basically literally what happened. So it was Mounsey who got away ahead of Brinton into turn number 1, and it was Rhys Stevenson as well, who put in some fantastic performances in qualifying and practice. Also, Garnett already making his way through the pack. making up some amazing manoeuvres to make up some early positions. But up front, it was all about Will Sullivan-Mounsey win his first R&G British Talent Cup race. Could it be Rhys Stevenson yet to win a race in the British Talent Cup? It was all basically eyes on them. Sullivan-Mounsey ran wide on the exit of the last corner, dropping him down a little bit, and then he seemed to not be able to recover or override the bike at times. Meantime, Johnny Garness was making his way through the pack, interestingly not wearing Johnny Garness's leathers but Harley McCabe's last year's leathers. Understand that his current leathers for this year are in Spain at the moment, so yeah, but nevertheless that didn't put him off. And Johnny Garness making his way through the pack. Harrison Desoy, the number 55 bike, doing brilliantly well until Rhys Stevenson high-sided and collected Sullivan-Mounsey. They both went off. They both went out of the race. Stevenson had a bit of a knock and a tumble, done himself a mischief, injured his arm. Mounsey was fuming. He'd already kind of thrown his own lead away at that point anyway. But the red flag came out shortly after, which meant that Harrison Desoy went on to win his first ever race in the R&G British Talent Cup. And the red flag came out, premature end to the race. I think it was more than 75% distance had been completed by then. Thankfully, everybody was okay from that crash, as I say. Well, they were up anyway. Stevenson suffering, I think, a broken arm, which unfortunately might put him out of action for a little while. But Harrison Desoy absolutely delighted to take home his first win in the British Talent Cup, and celebrating as such. We saw some interesting celebrations. Johnny Garness did make his way from the back of the pack, last place, to the podium. He finished third, a sensational comeback by anyone's measurements, I would say. But he wasn't happy with third place. He thought he could win if the race wasn't red flagged. He might have been able to. But still, Harrison Desoy, super delighted with that. And, this is what he said.
Yeah, the perfect way. Race was really good. It was unfortunate it ended in the red flag, but today it ended in my favour. So, yeah, really pleased with the result. And let's carry this momentum towards tomorrow. Obviously, qualifying, it was okay this morning. We wasn't really where we wanted to be, because initially we were P7, but obviously Johnny had his penalty. But no, I started P6, and just the only thing we could do is just ride the best I can, is go to the front and just try and lead as much as possible, because it's tough. It's really difficult, especially at this track with lots of long straights and not many technical corners. But no, yeah, really pleased with this result, and yeah, really happy.
I was really happy with my performance, but I felt like I had a little bit more for the end of the race, but it was unfortunate, a red flag, but tomorrow I have more in the bag. I was just trying to stay behind him, see where I could overtake a last lap, and just put in a plan together for the last lap, but unfortunately it couldn't happen. I felt really strong in that race. I feel like I can win it tomorrow. I just want to thank my whole team, Cavara Racing, RS Racing Project, and my dad, it's his birthday today, and thank my whole family.
I am happy but gutted at the same time, but I'll take a third place from the back of the grid. I made my way up through the pack. It was quite frustrating, because getting past everyone, but then I made it up to the front group on the last couple of laps of the red flag race. But I really hope Sonny's alright. But yeah, we were just taking lumps out of each other the whole race, and I'm happy. But
well, he said he was happy, but he was actually quite disappointed by only getting third place. Johnny Garness and Emmanuel Brinton in second place, doing I think a full season. This time he did a couple of races last year, and Harrison Desoy, the veteran now in terms of age of the British Talent Cup, and he's number one. Well, he was in race number one anyway. Fantastic, phenomenal couple of races, and more of the same again at round 2, Donington. So it's not Alton. A couple of weeks. Don't do what I did and put Alton in your calendar, thinking that's It's not. However, BSB are testing it all, and according to the weather reports, it's going to be bad. Interesting to see what actually turns up.
It seems that this year, at least for UK testing, BSB can't get a break. Of course, Donington Park, it was almost unusable conditions with it being such a slippery and cold track in the wet. So Donington, the team's got barely any running in. Silverstone, the team's got barely any useful running in, with only a couple of sessions really being done in the dry. And now Alton Park, it looks to not be the best either. So it seems right now the only proper dry running they've had is the teams that went to the Nevada circuit earlier on in the year. But of course, not all the teams attended that, like McCann's, which opted to do UK testing. But right now, it hasn't really paid off, unless if we get some wet races.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know why you wouldn't go out and test in the UK at tracks where you're going to be racing, even if it's in the wet, because they're probably going to be the conditions that you might be racing at. Just saying. I mean, if it was me in my team, I'd chuck them out on track. Hey, get out of there. Yes. Go and learn. I mean, for example, in Scotland, Lewis, you've got no choice. You've got to race or ride or test in the wet because, well, it's going to be wet, so you might as well get out there.
Yeah, exactly. Just test whatever conditions you're going to race in. Whenever we were testing, we even had some snow up at Knockhill. So, yeah, exactly. Just testing whatever conditions you get thrown at you. But, of course, for base setups and stuff, just testing in the wet isn't really going to be the best. So I'm sure all the riders, especially the new riders, would be hoping for at least some dry conditions just so they could stay out all day basically on that bike and get some laps in, because there's still some new riders like Tim Neve that needs to make slightly more steps, but of course McCann's, they still haven't really had too much dry running. So it's going to be interesting to see how the season pans out. Alton Park test, Alton Park as well, it's just a completely different circuit and a completely new challenge from Silverstone. It's basically the polar opposite. It's twisty, it's tight, it's undulating, unlike Silverstone where it's flat, wide and plenty of runoff.
Okay. Well, since we are talking about BSB, let's talk about BSB. And great handful of races and Silverstone. And, Tommy Bridewell, Kyle Ryde and Josh Brooks on the podium for race number one. It was Kyle Ryde with... he won last year, didn't he? Or was it Brad who won last year?
Kyle Ryde's has went well at Silverstone National for a couple of years now. I believe he got a podium or a race win there, even on the Build Bay Suzuki. Kyle Ryde. So Kyle Ryde, he's always been quite strong at Silverstone. It's a track that he definitely likes. So I wasn't surprised to see him up there in the top step, certainly in race one. So it was also great as well to see OMG picking up from where they left off last year.
Yes, of course. Ryan Vickers, only achieving a 13th place in race number one. How do you pronounce OMG's team name? Is it Lamy OMG Racing? They're basically sponsored by a vape.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway. Yeah. Anyway, but Tommy Bridewell, P2, it's about on track to, as where you'd expect him to be in that team, I suppose, at least on the podium. And Josh Brooks in the FHO, starting off his good weekend for him. Other standout performances for you, Lewis, in BSB Race 1?
In race one, Josh Brooks, probably my stand-up performance. It was just great to see him up there. Of course, two-time champion in British Superbikes, and he was up there straight away on the BMW. So it was just clear that something was missing on that Paul Bird Ducati for him. But yeah, and as well, Paul Bird, it's been a couple of years since we've seen him consistently fight at the front. Of course, last year at Donington Park, Tom Sykes did pick up a race win, but they haven't been consistently at the front. But as well, a rider to mention, Leon Haslam in 6th position. Yeah. Great to see him up there fighting again. It shows that the BMW seems to be working for certainly Haslam and Brooks.
As another mention as well, Jack Kennedy finishing race number one in P7 as well, so showing some early promise for him.
Yeah, Jack Kennedy, it really surprised me this weekend. Race one was probably weakest race in my opinion. Certainly looking at race 2 and 3, the shorter race, it seemed that overnight they managed just to find a bit more life fever in himself, or in teaming a bit more tire life, but really, really impressive. Jack Kennedy dropping to 7th position later on in the sprint race. Up to that point, he was fighting for about 4th position. So, yeah, really impressive. That Silverstone National Circuit, it's fast, it's flowing, and he could almost ride that BSB bike similar to how he rode the Supersport bike. So hopefully Jack Kennedy can keep it up this season, because I would love to see him do well. He's had multiple shots at British Superbikes, none of them have quite worked out, but so far with the Martrain team, it looks like it's going to be a good year if they can keep it up.
Don't jinx him, Lewis.
Yeah, without jinxing, touch on wood, of course.
Okay, special mentions. I want to mention as well Charlie Nesbitt, his BSB, his first BSB season with the Hawk Racing team, P12 in race number 1 at Silverstone, beating Ryan Vickers and much other established names as well. Brad Pirrie in 19th place, just ahead of Max Cook, as well, beating the likes of Luke Mossey. Davey Todd as well, who was way down. I would have expected him to be higher than that. I don't know exactly if he had any issues or anything, but that's where he finished in race number 1. And Christy Didden finishing last in race number 1. BSB at Silverstone. I think it was dry conditions from all of the races, was it?
Yeah, dry conditions for all the races, and it was good to see the riders finally get some stable conditions this year. Kawasaki certainly looked to be struggling, certainly at Silverstone. In race 3, as we'll look at later on, it looked like they finally found a little bit of pace, but certainly in race 1 and 2, they were slightly off the pace from what we were expecting them to be from last year.
It was the Bike Social BSB Sprint.
Yeah, the sprint race. Of course, it has 5 laps less than the 7 laps less than the normal race. 8 laps less, yeah. So I can't count, but yeah, 8 laps less than the normal race. So yeah, a whole 8 miles or whatever it is taken off. So yeah, it's just not really too much different, but gives riders slightly different race.
I don't know if it puts them in a different mindset. I mean, a race is a race. You can call it whatever you want, but yeah, Kyle Ryde winning in race number 1. Tommy Bridewell and Josh Brooks rounding out the podium. Race number 2 in the full fat endurance version, the full 24-minute race. Josh Brooks P1. Winning by really not much, less than 1/10 of a second from Tommy Bridewell. And Glenn Irwin rounding out the podium in 3rd place. Kyle Ryde only finishing 4th. And Jack Kennedy again doing pretty well, P7. And Danny Kent as well. I noticed a couple of, so far in race 1 and 2, a couple of decent performances. But memorable moments for you in race 2, if you can remember anything.
So race 2, probably the most memorable moment, not for really a good reason, I guess you could say, but it's of course why the race is only 27 laps. Danny Buchan's high side coming out the final corner, a massive accident. I believe it was well over 100 mile an hour. I believe it was 130 mile per hour that he came off. So yeah, Danny Buchan, he'll be missing the Autumn Park test this weekend. This week, tomorrow, I should say. Tomorrow on the Wednesday, he'll be missing it. And weirdly, actually, I was reading his statement that he put on his social media channels that they don't actually have an injury at the moment. He said that I believe his results are conflicting at the moment. Danny Buchan, they don't have a clear injury statement yet, so that's quite strange, but hopefully we'll see him back on the bike pretty soon. Jason O'Halloran at the front consistently again. I'm hoping that he does well this year, just because he's been at the front all season until it's went to showdown. But of course, all these race winners will only receive 18 points in the new British Superbike Championship format. So Josh Brooks, winning race 2, will only receive 18 points. So it's definitely going to change up the championship this year, and it's definitely going to make it slightly more confusing as the season progresses.
That's what we love, confusion. It's gonna take me. I completely, totally forgot no showdown this year until it was mentioned on the commentary, and then I was like, oh yeah. I'm sure it'll all figure itself out, and I'm sure. Actually, ironically, the fans whinging and putting in some valid complaints about the showdown of recent years. I think, and I hope this is done in the best possible way, but I hope we're not reminded why we even had the showdown in the first place. Because
yeah, of course. It's sure that was put in place to stop people running away with the championship. But yeah, this new format, I think the easiest way to understand it is just look at the points classification at the end of a race.
The winner is the winner.
Yeah, they're going to be changing the points for the race win 3 times this season. I believe at some point in the year it's going to be taken up to 25 points for a race win, and on the final round, I think it'll be taken up to, I think, 35 points for a race win. So points will be changing all the way throughout the season. So you just have to keep on top of it, I guess, and look at the classifications, because the new format, it's to try and keep racing closer, try to keep the championship closer anyway by increasing points. But at the end of the day, as we've seen last season, with Bradley Ray, if you're going to win races, you're still going to win them no matter what the points tally is. So I don't really look at this early point. I don't know if it's going to work.
It might not incentivize riders to do well in the higher point scoring positions, because I'm going to presume that everyone races to their maximum abilities anyway, but it might just throw a little spanner in the works for maybe unexpected results in a particular race, maybe. So I don't know, it's already messed up my spreadsheet, so
yeah, it's going to get confusing pretty quick for everyone involved, I think. So
I'm sure it'll be fine. Yeah.
Hopefully it'll be fine. Hopefully we'll all enjoy it, and hopefully we won't be wishing for the showdown to return. I think's the best thing. But yeah, the same people that were moaning about the showdown seem to be the same people that are moaning about the points changing. So
internet, I assure you there'll be none of those people on the BSB and Support Classes Facebook group. It's probably the other groups that I'm not the admin of. But let's see. Anyway, let's keep a positive outcome. It's only round 1, for God's sake. Stop. Just chill out.
Forget about it.
Yeah, just still sort itself out, and just right, race 3, BSB. This were on the another marathon, 26, or let's say 27 minutes long. Glenn Irwin with a win in race number 3. Josh Brooks on the podium. Tommy Bridewell in 3rd place. O'Halloran in 4th. Danny Kempt in 5th. Kyle Ryde only managing a 7th, but Jack Kennedy right up there still again in P8 in race number 3. And Ryan Vickers in that sort of Ryan Vickers area of like 10th or thereabouts. I don't know exactly if he had an issue or something through the weekend. I don't know, but definitely not doing as well as Kyle Ryde through the weekend.
I think that's a fair comment. Of course, he did have a crash in pre-season testing, Vickers, so maybe slightly not recovered from that, just giving him the benefit of the doubt, or hopefully it's just a Silverstone circuit, because of course it would be quite nice to see him do well this year. He's got a good bike.
Yes, he does. So no excuses this year. In race number 3, Max Cook, Storm Stacey, Davey Todd finishing at the back. And Storm, I think, was it qualifying where his bike blew up? And
Q2.
Right, yeah. I remember watching that. And then, that was an interesting one. But clearly they fixed it, thanks to the expert mechanicking of the team. And Hector Hanna-Barbera, the cartoon, in race number 3, finishing in 15th place. I often forget he's even in PSP, to be
It's only been one round, you'll get used to him. But yeah, he's doing a better job than the likes of Tito Rabat and some other riders did last year, where they left the team before heading to Caswell Park. But no, hopefully he can do well this season in British Superbikes. It's such a competitive championship, and of course no electronics this year for him, so a lot to learn. And hopefully as well, Storm Stacey can get some better results, because 21st isn't where Storm Stacey belongs. We know this. He's been fighting for podiums and positions and the like at places like Cadwell Park. So hopefully it was just maybe a slight issue going on the weekend, or just the circuit not really suiting them in that bike this year. So hopefully Storm will be up at the front later on in the season. But yeah, race 3, it was a great race. Danny Kent in 5th position, standout ride for me in race 3. I mean, it's been so many years since Danny Kent's been at the front of a big race, and it was so great to see. I was hoping to see either a race winner or a podium, but sadly it didn't come to anything. But it's shown that he had his pace in his own team this season, so hopefully he can do well. And of course, he was the top Honda.
And 2 seconds separating the top 6 in race number 3. So, who was it who said that the Silverstone track was a bit processional and boring? Who was that? I think it was, is it me, or am I just about to drop a controversial comment or something? So clearly Silverstone still quite popular with the actual bikes and the races. And I think personally, I like Silverstone, even the national circuit. Now, compare that, is probably best to not compare it, in fact, to other circuits, which are obviously very different. Everyone's got their own favourite. Silverstone is what it is. It's nothing else. So enjoy it for what it is.
Yeah, exactly. And if, like we did a couple of years ago, race at the international layout, on the GP layout, I think,
would be crap.
Lots of complaints.
I can't even imagine it now.
There'll be lots of complaints that you wouldn't get to see the bikes 30 times in one race, for example. Let's just say 30 laps as well. Fans viewing around the circuit get to see the bikes more than they would the international layout. And the international layout, I just think it would look very, very quiet around the circuit as well. So yeah, I don't think the international layout, I wouldn't want them to go back to the international layout, to be honest, or maybe even do 1 round international, 1 round national, and just then we would get a direct comparison in 1 year and what circuit suits British Superbikes better.
Could be done. I mean, yeah, like you said, it could happen on one weekend. Maybe have race 1, a sprint race on the national, have race 2, a sprint race on, have an endurance, a long full race on the national.
Feature,
have race 3, something, it probably wouldn't work anyway. Stop me getting carried away, Lester. Anyway, championship after Silverstone, 3 races, and Josh Brooks is leading by just 2 points. Tommy Bridewell in 2nd, Glenn Irwin in 3rd, Kyle Ride, despite his best efforts, and they were good efforts, in 4th place right now in the championship. Jason O'Halloran in 5th, Leon Haslam in 6th. Who'd have thought that before the season? Jack Kennedy in 7th, Danny Kent in 8th, Andrew Irwin in 9th place, and Lee Jackson in 10th place. And, so there you go, BSB at the moment, and it's testing this week at Alton Park. Wonder if it'll be interesting to see who goes there, if they all go out testing, or some go out testing, who they are. Be interesting. I don't actually know who is there, but be interesting.
We'll find out tomorrow on TSL Timing, where we'll be able to keep up the test for all day. So yeah, hopefully a lot of teams can learn stuff, valuable information, especially people like FS3 Kawasaki, and just Kawasaki in general, to be honest, all the Kawasaki bikes, who seem to be just a little bit off the pace. Maybe even Peter Hittman, who had a quiet weekend compared to his teammate, I think it's fair to say. Hopefully they can find something at the test to be able to run to and compete at the front.
Well, he did have that incident, didn't he? So
yeah, of course. Peter Hittman, having a small crash and warm-up as well. So hopefully he can be back at the front. So it's clear as well, the new BMW, the M1000, is working in BSB because Haslam and Brooks are getting the results on it.
Well, Haslam, at least, before it was announced, if you remember back in Navarra, he went testing with, I think, that bike. I think it was that, must have been that one.
Yeah.
And putting in some good performances. So, yeah, the pace is there. The package of him and that bike is there. It's looking strong. The new BMW F900R Cup with its new format and stuff. Sorry, I still couldn't understand it all.
I didn't manage to watch the heat races. I only managed to watch the last chance qualifier race and the main event itself.
Well, maybe it was because I'm going to put this down to me just being busy because I was there working and doing other things, being distracted. So I didn't have my full focus on it. I mean, I saw it was on. Yeah.
Well, Richard Cooper won the race anyway,
but there was there was another race though. There was like a last chance.
Yes.
Race.
Yeah. There was a last chance race on the Sunday morning, and I believe it was 16 riders that were in it, and the top 14 of them 16 riders made their way into the main race. Basically, it was just a qualifying race where the top 14 come in, and two of the riders crashed out. So basically, if you finished the race, you made your way into the main race.
Exactly. So, and I did happen to notice, and this is not anything negative to say about the BMW F900R Cup. It just rolls off the tongue. But there was a lot of pre-season comments when certain riders were announced, because I think they to give BMW and BSB and MSVR full credit, they had maybe intended the cup to be aimed at less professional riders, potentially the lesser household names, and then Dom Herbertson, Michael Rutter, Thomas Strudwick, and Richard Cooper all turn up. And then everyone was like, "Oh, well, of course, no point even us, no. I mean, they're just going to clearly walk away with it." And of course, they're not. So the top four in the championship at the moment: Richard Cooper, Thomas Strudwick, Michael Rutter, and Dominic Herbertson.
Yeah. In the race, it was a pretty good in the main race, it was a pretty good battle for the first couple of laps, until Richard Cooper got to the front and he managed just to pull away with it. Up to that point, it looked like Strudwick and Rutter were just trying to break his momentum. Fourth place in the race was Dominic Herbertson. He was a further 12 seconds behind, and James Kelly was 8 seconds behind him. So the first non-semi-professional rider, I guess, professional, semi-professional rider was 24 seconds behind the race winner. So, yeah, some people were not too pleased about that. But, of course, in Richard Cooper's case, I mean, if you could enter it, if there's a chance you would win the championship, a British championship at that, why wouldn't you?
Especially for the prize money, which here is quite juicy as well. But yeah, maybe, I don't know, if it might be a bit of an incentive to do what was it the Super Sport a couple of years ago, where they had like the non-point scoring, non-chapel racing and up front and winning races, but they weren't affecting the championship as such. So you had the people on the, I'm forgetting now, it was a couple of years ago. Potentially they might want to look at doing something like that. But so far, so good, I would say. Depending on who you are and your point of view. Yeah,
the format was easier to understand once it actually got underway, I think it's fair to say, considering all we'd seen so far is just looking at it in articles or on a piece of paper.
Yeah.
So whenever it was actually in use, it was far more understandable for the viewers at home. And I enjoyed it. It was something different over the course of the weekend. And the battle certainly between Cooper, Strudwick and Rutter was good racing, so I was happy enough with that. Of course, people were expecting the championship, like you said, to be people moving up from the likes of Thundersport, No Limits, championships like that. And to be honest, they didn't get seen too much on the TV. They didn't get too much TV time because all eyes were on the front with the battle for the lead.
Yeah, but I don't know, wherever they're out next. Don't know if they're in Alton or Donington. I can't remember, to be honest, but I'll pay more attention to it, I promise. And or maybe we should just watch the top 4. I'm sure it'll be good. It'll be good. Let's not be negative. Right. So, other championships, just quickly anyway. Running through the Pirelli National Superstock with Santander Consumer Finance Championship. Yes. And race number 1, Alex Olsen winning the race from Franco Bourne. And Billy McConnell in the top 3. Dan Linfoot, 4th. Richard Kerr, Joe Talbot, Joe Francis, Lewis Rollo, and Ben Luxton in 9th place. Alistair Seeley rounding out the top 10. New lap record was set in race number 1 by Joe Talbot, 53.974. And that was an interesting one. Race number 2, though, Franco Bourne won it by about a 10.5 of a second from Dan Linfoot in 2nd place, Alex Olsen in 3rd, Joe Talbot in JR Performance Racing, who was on the show just a couple of shows ago, I think. A couple of weeks ago. Doing well in 4th place. And a new lap record, beating the previous new lap record from race number 1. New lap record currently held by Dan Linfoot of 53.681 seconds. The National Superstock Championship, or Stock 1000, as it's still, as I've heard many people still refer to it. That was an interesting, massive grid, which we're always like to see in BSB. John McGuinness as well. I neglected to mention him only because he...
John McGuinness and Michael Dunlop were there, and they didn't really spark up anything really this weekend, but it was just testing for the roads, of course. But we'll wait and see. I don't believe they're doing a full season, but hopefully we can see them at the front. But it was a great race. 45 bikes. I believe in free practice they had to split up the bikes, and I believe they just did it for a random number generator, to be honest, to be able to get the practice group 1 and group 2. So there was 2 groups of practices. They were combined into one, and it was just some great racing, to be honest. It was a great weekend. It was great seeing Franco Bourne, of course, now the Stock National Superstock Championship. Has slick tyres now, so it springed up a few surprises this year. Franco Bourne moving up to the championship as well, and straight away on the pace. So hopefully it's things to come, and hopefully he can be one to watch at all the circuits this year, because it was a great race. Lewis Roll as well in the race 2, crashing out of the race at Brooklands, I believe, on the only Aprilia on the grid, and at the front anyway. It seemed once again in the National Superstock Championship, it is Honda domination once again, with the top 5 or 6 riders being on Hondas all weekend.
And leading the championship is Franco Bourne, but only by 2 points. Alex Olsen right there in 2nd place. Dan Linfoot in 3rd. Richard Kerr in 4th. Joe Talbot in 5th. Joe Francis in 6th. Billy McConnell 7th. Alistair Seeley 8th. Ben Luxton 9th rather. And David Allingham rounding out the top 10 in the Pirelli National Superstock Championship with Santander Finance. The Stock 1000, basically. To give it its old name. That was an interesting one. Moving on quickly to the National Junior Superstock Championship with Santander Consumer Finance. Aaron Sylvester, there was only one... there was one race
for them.
In this particular race. Aaron Sylvester won it, from closely followed by Taylor Rose, Cam Dawson, Owen Jenner only managed a 4th place in the race. Ed Best in 5th, Lewis Vallely in 6th place, Jacob Hatch in 7th, Declan Connell 8th, Charlie Atkins 9th, Keir Armstrong rounding out the top 10. Lots of names in there as well that I recognise from things like the Fab Racing Minibikes British Championship. A lot of graduates, let's say. For example, last year's British Talent Cup racer Harrison Crosby managed in a 15th place in, I think, his second ever round. I think he did a wild card last year, so was it or couple last year maybe. And Jamie Lyons was in there. Rossi Banham, or Ross Banham, as he's called by TSL. Rossi Banham. Owen Mellor as well. Was racing in his first race in this championship. He finished just behind Rossi Banham in P22, and you bought a bike off Owen Mellor, didn't you?
I bought my 300 off Owen Mellor that was racing at BMC, and he's moved up to the 600s this year on the Team Mellor bike. Built by the same man who builds my engines, Dave Suddes of BDS Motorcycles. Finished 22nd on his debut in the British Superbike Championship. I'm sure he's quite happy with that. They were nursing issues all weekend. I believe they're having a slight overheating issue that they just couldn't get their heads around. Looking at the race reports. So race one, because they only got one race, but all the way throughout the 3 practice sessions, they were struggling with an overheating issue. So Owen Mellor managed just to kind of limp home, have some fun, and get a 22nd position. So, yeah, it was a great race. Aaron Sylvester, as you mentioned, won the race on the older style Yamaha R6. It looked like the older shape, the 2013 to I think around 2016 Yamaha R6. So it was great to see him up at the front on, of course, I believe his own bike or family-run team anyway, and Owen Jenner on pole position. He was delighted with that, and what a start he made off the line. But it just looked like later on in the race, he started to drop back down the order. And I don't really know why. Maybe just got a bit flustered after one or two riders overtook him. Of course, Owen Jenner was on our show just a couple of weeks ago. Declan Connell as well, having a good weekend in 8th position. He was inside the top 10 all weekend. Declan Connell, a Scottish rider, actually racing in the Scottish Championship just a couple of years ago, and his second year, I believe, in the junior superstock class. So a great first round for him, but a shame that they only got one round and they didn't get too much TV time.
Yeah, there's always going to be an ongoing issue regarding that. I'm somewhat conflicted because I don't actually want to say anything negative about my colleagues in the media. So I won't. I'll let you do it instead. But yeah, no, I disagree heartily with every criticism that you yada yada. But I'm only biased because I work in the media. Anyway, so yeah, that was the one race for them, and be interesting to see what happens next. Anyway, moving on to the Quattro Group British Supersport and British GP2 Championship. Rolls off the tongue, the name. And it was 2 races for these folks. Race 1, a sprint. Ooh. A 15 minutes or 16 minute sprint, and a feature race, a 23 or 25 lap race. And winning both races, Lee Johnston, who's now leading the championship, top marks, top points, and top performance all weekend. 50 points, he's leading the championship. He won race number 1 by only 0.2 of a second, and leaving less in race number 2 from Rhys Irwin, who finished in second place in the race. In race number 1, it was Johnson, Stapleford, and Tom Booth Amos rounding out the top 3, and Ben Curry finishing in 6th place. Just to randomly pick a couple of names out. Another massive field racing here. If you didn't manage to catch it, check it out if you can eventually find it on the Eurosport player. But one person that I don't think got going, I don't know what happened with him, but I was going to try and keep it. I don't even know if did he even qualify? You know what I'm thinking of, Lewis?
Yeah, Luca Allen had some issues in qualifying with his GP2 bike and pulled into the pits pretty quickly, I believe on the first lap or just before the race started in race 1. So I haven't really seen what happened with him, but it looked like it was just some ongoing mechanical issues all weekend.
Did qualify P33 in, on the grid, on his Calyx for the new team that you might not know about, Team FR89, Fraser Rogers named team. It's not actually run by Fraser Rogers. He is lending a hand, advising the riders, but it's run by Fraser's mum, Sarah. And Luca Allen, the rider, one of the couple of riders maybe in that team later this season. But a tough start to the weekend for him. We'll try and get him on the show. I did try my best efforts, but I think we got a long interview with him while we were at Fab Racing, the Mini Bikes British Championship, where he was also racing the likes of Casey O'Gorman and challenging him in one of the races there. So he's definitely quick. So that's a name to watch out for in the past, in the future.
I've had a look on social media. I've came back with answers.
What's he said?
With Luca Allen, in qualifying, he suffered quite a fast tumble, it seemed, and he was past fit to ride. He was cleared fit to ride, but at race 1, he went out on his bike and he felt too sore to actually ride it. He felt it wouldn't have been safe to continue in the weekend, so he pulled out due to, not feeling comfortable to race. So hopefully he's fully fit again for Alton Park, and hopefully we can see him on that GP2 machine, because he, as you said, he's such a quick rider. So injuries playing havoc and a crash playing havoc for Luca Allen's weekend.
Yeah, unfortunately, I didn't actually know that about his qualifying incident. So I suppose get well soon, Luca. And so leading the championship in the British Supersport Championship, as I mentioned, Lee Johnson, a healthy 12-point gap at the moment, leaving Silverstone. And Tom Toparis, how do you pronounce his name anyway?
Toparis, I believe.
I do follow him on Instagram or somewhere anyway, one of the socials. And my brain just thinks Tom to Paris. And I don't make the connection between the rider and just some guy who's blogging about his trip to Paris. My brain doesn't work like that anyway. Jamie Perrin in third place. Don't admit you've done it as well. Jamie Perrin in third place. Ben Curry in fourth in the championship. Luke Stapleford in fifth. Rhys Irwin in sixth place. Tom Booth Amos only in seventh. And Blaze Baker, great name, in eighth. And that should be a great continuation. Alton Park next round in a couple of 2 weeks' time. Yes, 2-3 weeks.
Yes, it's not long anyway. It's going to come quicker than what anyone's going to expect now. We're properly in the deep end of the season. But it's going to be great at Alton Park this weekend in the GP2 and the British Supersport Championship. It was great racing, as you mentioned. Close battles. Rhys Irwin on the Suzuki 750 GSX-R. Pulled off a great result, fighting at the front. Of course, this was the first proper round of the new Supersport regulations, where, like the World Championship, we had 900cc Ducatis, 765 Triumphs, and 750 Suzukis all in one race. And it's the first round of the British Supersport Cup, where riders in the British Supersport Cup who want to take part in that rather than the full championship can pick 8 rounds of their own choosing over the course of the season, and they'll compete in their own separate championship within the race. So that's definitely one to look out for as well. I believe Harry Lee won race 2 of the Cup class, finishing in 19th overall. So
I did see that, incidentally. I saw him because I do follow Harry on social media, and I did see he was particularly delighted, and I think I might have actually caught the race as well at some point. But again, I was so busy doing my own thing. I didn't pay attention to it while I was there. But huge congratulations to Harry Lee. Just talking briefly about the Hell Performance British Junior Supersport Championship that had 2 races at the weekend. It was an action-packed weekend at the super exciting, entertaining Silverstone National Circuit. 2 races for the British Junior Supersport Championship. Jacob Stevenson, another Fab graduate, winning race number 1. Lewis Jones winning race number 2. Coming second in race number 1. Calvin Kelly in third. Finn Smartweed in 4th place. Jack Kirsch, Callum Beach, Lennon Doherty, Joe Ellis, Adam Brown and Jack Smith rounding up the top 10. And Who else? Any other special mentions to mention? Samuel Munson as well, P17. I did get a quick interview with him before his first race. He actually came over to me and asked me, can I interview him? And said, yeah, sure. Only if I can ask you what happened at a certain fab round last year at Clandau. And he said, don't mention it. No. Lewis, just remind us what did happen to Samuel Munson at a certain fab round last year.
At a certain fab round last year, he had one or two mechanical issues. I think it's fair to say. I believe actually it was his chain slipping off his sprocket, and it did it, I think, 2 or 3 times before the race start. It did it on the warm-up lap, and it did it on the grid, I think, twice while I was trying to set off. So it left a pretty disgruntled Samuel Munson.
Disgruntled?
That was not happy, let's just say.
He had a full-blown meltdown. He had a proper paddy right in front of the camera, which was always useful.
Useful for us anyway, but yeah, I'm sure he wasn't too pleased at the time. I'm sure he still probably thinks about that moment and how angry he was, because it was definitely the angriest I've seen him.
Yeah, and to compound his anger, it happened again in race number 2. He didn't even make the start, and again it happened right in front of our camera. And I reminded of him of that fact during the thing, and I'd also reminded myself that I'd not even published it yet, so that's going on TikTok anytime soon. And he asked me to probably not publish it, but it's already gone out live, I'm afraid. I'm just doing the people's work and doing those TikToks. So anyway, but big respect to Sam Munson in his first junior supersport race, finishing in 17th, ahead of the likes of Greg Marshall, Aaron Lilly, and Rossi Brown, and Holly Harris also making her debut in this class as well. She finished in P26 for FHO Racing, ahead of her FHO teammate Scarlett Robinson. So a decent first weekend for Holly Harris. Race number 2, it was Finn Smart-Weeden who won race number 2, and it was a fascinating battle. There was there was 0.6 of a second in between the top 5 bikes, and 1 second between the top 8 bikes. So yeah, that's how close that was, if you didn't see it. Lewis Jones in second place in race number 2. Jack Kirsch, Lennon Doherty, Callum Beach, Calvin Kelly, Jacob Stevenson, Jack Smith, Adam Brown, and Maximus Hardy. Those are people with great names in this class, Lewis, got to say. But leading by just 1 point, leaving Silverstone, Lewis Jones in the Junior Supersport Championship from Finn Smart-Weeden, Jacob Stevenson in the top 3. Did you watch any of those races, Lewis, and what did you think?
Yeah, I managed to catch both of them at the end of the day on the Discovery Plus app. It was great racing, to be honest. It's exactly what you expect. They're probably the slowest class that we have at British Superbikes, but they always produce great racing. Slipstream is so effective, and Finn Smart-Weeden actually, in my opinion, wins the name competition in this class. But yeah, a great race, very, very close. And Lennon Doherty also have to give a quick shout out to, because I was speaking to him just a couple of weeks ago at the Knock Hill test, and he's feeling confident for this season. He wildcarded, I think, at Silverstone last year, and he was within the top 10 straight away. So 4th place finish, and he was leading the races at some points as well. The lead in the race changed, I think, at every single corner, every single lap, and it was basically just a drag race to the line, and it's exactly what we expect. Bars were bashing, and actually there was a crash after the checkered flag once again, and that was involving Freddie Oakley in race 2, I believe it was, with another rider. So yeah, there was a crash after the checkered flag, and he got his legs stuck in between the rear wheel and the tail unit of the bike.
Yeah, I did see it. I was in the media room and watching it. I was just about to head out to do some other bits, and I saw it, but I didn't actually catch who it was at the time. So that was him, was it? And unfortunately,
yeah, it was not the nicest looking crash. Actually, it was race 1 that he had the off. He crashed. He retired anyway from race 2, we didn't see actually what happened on TV screens, I don't believe. So with it being after the checkered flag, he was still classified in the result. So Freddie Oakley finished in 21st and crashed in after the checkered flag. So yeah, it was one of those things, I guess. It looked like the rider in front was going much slower after the checkered flag, and he moved to the right, and Freddie was there going much faster, and they made contact.
Who was that rider? I think was it last year at Alton Park? I can't remember who it was, but basically the other rider behind him hit the back of him, and he ended up mounting the bike in front, but not quite, because he basically burnt all his crotch area, and he landed on the tyre. Who was that?
Rory Skinner had the crash at Alton Park last year and got stuck in, I think it was Christian Idden's rear tyre, and barrel rolled inside his bike. It reminded me of that. And luckily, actually, both riders, both Skinner last year and Freddie Oakley this year, escaping injuries. I don't even think Freddie Oakley has a broken bone, which is so surprising. I mean, he was so lucky there. His right leg, I believe it was inside, was getting pressed against a moving
dragged
tire.
him like 100 metres, a long time.
Exactly. Yeah, I really don't know how both of them riders escaped injury, but yeah, they were lucky, let's just say, and that's twice this year so far that across the racing classes that we've seen crashes after the checkered flag. So yeah, something that was unusual to see before, but now it's becoming quite a theme, it seems.
So you mentioned that you were testing at Knockhill with, who was it again?
Lennon Docherty was up at Knockhill testing.
So, who's quicker?
Oh, but definitely Lennon. I mean, I'm not even going to try to bug myself up there. He's definitely quicker. He's definitely got slightly a bit more talent than me, let's just say. But it was great to see him do well, to be honest. He was disappointed, actually, in both race 1 and race 2 with a 7th position finish and a 4th place finish, which, on any other day, I'm sure you would be quite happy to take home. But he did have the pace for race 1. It looked like, actually, I think it was race 2. I actually called it myself that it looked like he just ran out of tyre slightly at the end of the race, and you just seen his rear stepping out, heading into Brooklands, heading into the final sector, which just dropped him down to that 4th place position and ran him slightly wide. So no way he was wanting this. Well, I'm sure going into the weekend he would have been quite happy with a 7th and a 4th, but with the pace that he had, he was hoping for at least a podium, it seemed. But it's just the start of the season, of course. It's going to be a long season for all these riders, even in BSB. So it's just start of the season. It's a good way to start it. And at Knockhill, he was testing a Honda CB500. So he wasn't even testing the Junior Supersport bike. But of course, I'm sure he will be back up here this season to do some testing on that bike, because they will be racing, I believe, this year at Knockhill, the Junior Supersport class.
Right. Well, there you go. That's a marker for you then, Lewis, while you're doing your racing at Knockhill. And I don't know, maybe they'll all be involved. Maybe Troy Jeffrey might also get involved. And
Luke Allen came up, I believe it was 2 years ago, whenever he was on his Junior Super Sport bike, as R3 to do some testing pre-Knockhill BSB, and he did pretty well at it. Okay, interesting. Keep us up to date, Lewis, with riders that you are faster than, if anyone. You might be waiting a little while for BSB riders that I'm faster than, but we'll wait and see. You never know. But don't be shy at all. So just briefly, going back to the BSB and support classes fans Facebook group that we've been keeping an eye on, some of the topics of conversation throughout the evening regarding Chris Hayden's question. Is it me, or is Steve Day the worst commentator in bike racing, asks Chris. There's been a lively debate kicking off. Jane Fitzpatrick has chimed in. Hello, Jane. She says, I love Steve Day. He is great. And on that note, I think we can all agree. He is actually a nice guy. Yeah, he's a nice guy. He's a good commentator. And, of course, commentary, as we mentioned earlier, is personal preference. And if you don't like him, there is a second option. There is the TSL BSB radio coverage.
Yes, where the Motorsport award-winning Duncan Vincent will be headlining the BSB radio coverage, and also on Motorsport Radio as well, apart from at the weekend because they had technical issues, and we couldn't restream them because it was all done with TSL. But still, we'll look to get that back.
Usually, yes, on a normal weekend.
Normally, I didn't want to mention it just because, again, it was... But, first round glitches, let's say. But anyway. And also, regarding the question, what was your best moment / highlight from round one Silverstone? Well, a lot of people have been in touch, and a lot of people have been voting for their personal favourites. Dom the Bomb says William Hintz, or Heinz. Hints, I'm going to say. William says, Dom the Bomb bringing Privateer Roads flavour to British, or BSB, I'm going to guess the rest of that said. And a lot of other people say, Cooper and Rutter's podium as well, says Mark Craggs as well. Many other people voted for by their mum as being their personal highlight. Owen Jenner's pole position was nominated by Emma Jenner. So why not? But the overall winner, Lewis, would you like to know what everybody's best moment from Silverstone round one at BSB was?
Yes, I do.
He says with unbridled enthusiasm.
Yes.
It was. Of course. With 35% of the votes, Paul Mullen's suggestion that Franco Born's performances was the best moment or highlight from round one at Silverstone. I'm going to also throw in a cheeky suggestion that both of the R&G British Talent Cup races, because they were pretty bloody good. But so far, Franco Born is people's best moment at the moment from what was a fantastic round at Silverstone. And the next BSB race at Alton Park in a couple of weeks' time, so check it out. Live coverage here on Motorsport Radio, and we will return in a few weeks' time with live race coverage from the Fab Racing Mini Bikes British Championship in about 5 weeks, 4 or 5 weeks' time.
Yep.
Live from Red Lodge, May. And yes, an interesting round that will definitely be, for many reasons. Lewis is remembering the last time he was at Red Lodge, and I can't tell you what happened. Anyway, so that's the end of the show. I didn't even think, Lewis, that we managed to get 2 hours out of this tonight, to be honest. But well, we've done well, I think.
Yes,
Lewis agrees.
We have. Awesome. Yeah, it was great. And I think a lot of people were just happy for BSB to be back and happy for all the support classes to be back. Of course, there will be some people still complaining, but at the end of the day, bike racing is back, whether you're at the track or watching at home on the telly. So really, what more do you have to complain at, really? Because
stop complaining.
Yes, basically just stop complaining. Bikes are back. We all should be pretty happy. There's new race winners. There's unexpected race winners. There's Franco Born at the top, which for many people has put him on the map, which I think emphasises that, it wouldn't be a bad idea to watch some of the junior championships, which you'll see the riders come up through the ranks, like Fab Racing, like the British Talent Cup, and see these riders develop. So when they get to this stage in their career where they're winning national superstock races, you're like, well, we know that he had that talent because Franco Born is a great rider.
Yeah, and Fab graduate, and as was the British Talent Cup race winner, Harrison Desoy from race number 1, and Evan Belford from race number 2, as was Kyle Ride as well in BSB. Just saying. But anyway. Right, so that's the end of the show. Thank you very much for tuning in. This has been the Superbike Show. Download it anywhere you go. You can squirt us on your phone and shove us on your internet. And also, live coverage of the NTT IndyCar Championship Series this weekend here on Motorsport Radio. Yeah, check that out as well. That's going to be good. Thank you, and good night. Bye.
Bye.